Maybe? I know there are like docks. Yeah. Oh.
Nice fishing experience.
You weren't fishing.
Huh?
You weren't fishing.
No, I feel like nice fishing experiences for other people, not us. So we're taking a walk down there. And just seeing that this it's like a really from the rain yesterday, it washed like overflowed.
Probably, I don't know.
That's it. That's why the water was so high, glacial, and that it overflowed its banks, its canal bank.
Well, there are a few shops here, I think.
So how do you, when we get out there? So we walk like this, no?
Yeah.
Someone could actually pass and take that home. But I want to record this a little bit. Then I'll tell you to grab it.
You'll just put it on the table.
It's not going to be, unless I put it on my bag. I put it on my bag. But I will see to know how it's actually recorded. So I'll record that for you. This is like, I don't know what else. So you really wanted this ice cream so badly?
You know it looks like ice cream.
This is good. I think eating in a Chinese restaurant like that one, this would give you more value. So next time we go there. And the sandwich is really good. How it went down, guys. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. And, thank you so much for watching. Wanna grab it? The Bible.
I already said bye.
And me again. Hi. So today I'm going to be finally getting the chance to record you. We're out in Montreal, right? And we're finally together after such a long time.
But like 2 or 3 years apart.
Almost 3 years apart. So it was killing me. I wasn't coping fine. And on the other hand, you had that time to yourself, right? You didn't have to sleep really loud.
Yeah.
To do what? Go to school, build on yourself and for yourself, because every child has to become an adult. They're adulting, right?
Yeah.
And you chose Canada. I wanted you to go to America, but you decided you wanted Canada, right?
Yeah.
And the whole episode, the whole roller coaster started for us. But it's a good thing. I never thought of Canada. I mean, there were times when I visited the US where I wanted to come to Canada. I just never imagined this, like even being in Montreal. Did you ever know Montreal?
I mean, I heard of Montreal. Like some of my classmates have been here on like vacations, but I've never really been here myself. Never even pictured really coming here.
Okay, for me, I have thought about visiting the French-speaking part of Canada just because I love French. I genuinely love French. I was in French classes in my secondary school. Then I personally joined the French club. I wanted to learn how to speak French. So we even attended French competitions together as a school in high school in Nigeria. So I wanted an opportunity to be in the French-speaking part and learn French. But then I also loved Newfoundland because there was St. John's, there was the thing about the Newfoundland people. But then when you struggle having a job there, finding real connections just to get a business started, I thought that was the right way for us to go. It made me question, like, okay, what's really going on here? And all of that, which I discussed with you. So somehow, without us planning this, we ended up in Montreal, right? And it turns out to offer those things that we were looking out for, which was like business, and work, and a great life, just being able to do what we're doing. We're out together today on Sunday. We are able to sit down, relax, and have a meal together. And just you being able to work in, and we're able to afford to live our lives, not depending on anyone, but doing things for ourselves. So that is what is amazing, that we never planned this, and our faith in God brought this about for us. So that's how I raised you, even with all the challenges, from autism to financial challenges to all the challenges we had, even in our experiences from the beginning. I had to, as a single mom, I wasn't married, out of wedlock, and we were able to overcome a lot. And I give God glory for that. And we're here. You never spoke properly until you were 4. And I had to pray a lot. With my Christian faith. And even though I knew you were placed on the Autism Spectrum, my faith made me believe that you would speak, and you would hit all the milestones in your life. You would go to school, you would have a normal life, and here you are. And I'm so grateful to God. So I talk about that in my other vlog called Sweet Cross, which I recommend that you also go watch. And apart from that, we went into high school. We had challenges generally, pretty much like, how do you even write? You started writing at what age? Seriously.
What age was I? 3rd grade?
3rd grade, you were still struggling. And I remember even when you were in senior high school, that was SS2, right? You did SS2. Into that school you finally graduated?
3, actually.
Oh, it was just SS3, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
my writing was fine at that period.
your writing was fine, but you were still building a handwriting book. So I would say it was fine. It was with a lot of insisting, struggle, encouraging that they would write. So I want to encourage those of you who have kids in the autism spectrum, who have really been struggling. My advice is have faith in God, and I did. and my faith in God, in our Lord Jesus Christ, helped me. I believed, I followed it, I believed in the process. I never gave up, and it worked out. And he finally got into the university with all of this challenge. So I wanted to know, and I want people to know, why did you choose Canada? Because I was a single mom, and I was also a civil servant. I'm still a civil servant technically. So I came on a visit to see my son, and it's because of these challenges which we talked about. I've had to stay longer to help him to transition smoothly, because he needed that kind of support. And as well, myself, because I was away from him for like almost 3 years, and I was struggling emotionally, dealing with the fact that, oh, he needs me, and I still cannot reach him. I still can't be there to give him all the support he needed. So I was so depressed. I was giving up. Like, I was seriously giving up. And fortunately, the visa came through, and I now had to stay over with him. We started walking through some other core challenges to be able to enable him to be very stable on his own, and we are still working on that very much. And myself healing a lot, so I look a lot better now, to be honest. It was a terrible experience and a lot of healing for the past almost 1 year now. So I want to ask, why did you choose Canada? Because that was so hard for me. I wanted him to go to the US, and because you're a US citizen, right? But you chose Canada. Like, why?
Well, the simple answer would be because I was scared. I mean, when the kind of news you listen to is always about like people of color being like mistreated or killed one way or another, and especially with like George Floyd incident, I was just like, okay, maybe I should go somewhere where stuff like that isn't really heard of, and then that's what led me to Canada.
Okay. So we struggled a lot with this decision, because I wanted you to like do well with your SAT in case it didn't work out, because I knew I was going to be away from you, and I wanted you to have a plan B, something to fall back on. So I said you must have to pass your SAT, even if you're going to come to Canada, so that if it doesn't work out, because I knew the challenges like I explained, and I'm like, okay, so if that doesn't work out, at least you can still get a school back in America and continue from there. So, yeah, and he wasn't having any of that, because his mind was made up for Canada, and luckily he passed, but not to the extent that I wished for him. I wished for him.
You wanted a scholarship.
Yeah, I wanted a scholarship level pass for him, but he didn't make that. So all the same, he passed, and he was able to get me to accept to support him, like I promised I would if he passes the SAT. So he came to Canada, and he went to Newfoundland. So why was that?
Well, we were looking around for like universities I could go to in Canada that wouldn't really break the bank, and then the more university came up, and one thing I really liked is that on top of it being an affordable school, it also had a conservatory, which I really liked since growing up I was really into like astrology. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Music astrology, that's a study of the planets, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jed loved physics a lot. He was a natural with physics. So, I mean, I easily felt like, okay, he's a scientist. So when he took the general science program, I felt like, oh, that's perfect for him. And then he gets to use the observatory. Did he actually use it?
Sadly no. I wasn't in the physics class that used it, but it was still fun to just like be around it and know that it's there. But like, yeah.
Okay, but what were your good experiences in Newfoundland?
Well, the environment was nice. The people were amazing, and the classes were okay.
When you say amazing, that's like so much of a general term. Like specifically in what's the word? Objective.
Well, I liked them because they were like really nice people there, like whether it was like adults or like students. They were generally really nice, really respectful, and even though they were university students, there was never really anything like crazy. Because one thing that I really appreciate, because normally because of like stuff I seen on TV and all that, I had this general idea that like college parties were just like, you know, lots of drinking and crazy shit going on. But then I get to university and their parties were mainly just having fun with board games and like just like sodas, tea and all that. I gotta tell you, there is no better food than having tea at a party.
Oh wow! Like what kind of tea?
Like, you know, like basic like Lipton tea and all that. Because there was this one friend I had that when we had parties at his place, his go-to like refreshments were like tea and some biscuits. So.
And I noticed you were pretty healthy.
Yeah.
So during the COVID time, the government, they were really, the provincial government, they were really on top of it.
Yeah, they were.
So he never had COVID. This is one person who never had COVID throughout COVID period. And that's amazing. So, so we thank God for that. I was also praying so hard back in Nigeria that he shouldn't have COVID. So he had to leave the province eventually to Maryland in the US and had to take the COVID test to be able to board the plane. So he actually got confirmed even before he even got to the campus. He had to take the COVID test before getting on campus, and while leaving eventually he had the COVID test. So he's never had COVID. They all came out negative, and that was amazing. So we're grateful to God for that. So in Nigeria, you really wanted to leave at the time, and that put a lot of pressure on you. I'm a single mom. I've struggled with you a lot, and you even knew that at the time I wasn't having any assistance. I depended 100% on my salary, and I did a little extra, which was on sustainability, which we're still trying to do more work business on. But those were research works basically, and those were how I got something extra. And I had to save out of my salary to be able to sponsor you to school. So you knew all of this and you insisted on leaving. It was hard for me. So why was this?
Well, because at that time I was starting to get really sick of Nigeria.
Okay. What was the reason? Like, no, people wouldn't understand. I want you to make it clear, like, why? Why was it so challenging? What were the core challenges?
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of challenges because Nigeria. Yeah, there were like a lot of challenges because basically, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that feels this way about this, but Nigeria is a really disgusting place on every level. Whether it's on a political level, there's always like greed going on with like, okay, we want to vote for this president, but then the ruling party would be like, oh yeah, no, you're gonna vote for me, otherwise I'm gonna get my hired goons to basically mess you up, which they did in the last elections, which was incredibly disappointing. And then even on a personal level, there's always like that aspect of greed, like, oh, there's a way I can embezzle some cash out of this company, sure, I'm gonna take that. It's a blessing from God, pretty much. And it's just like, why would you do this? Like, you're expecting people higher up to be decent people, and then you're doing that exact same thing yourself. And then they wonder why they have poor electricity to the point where there's basically blackouts every day for like hours at a time. And they wonder why roads are messed up. They wonder why buildings are pretty much crumbling. That's because no one's actually doing their jobs right.
And we had the house situation in Nigeria. You want to speak about that? Because we were going through that as well, and you knew about this, and you still couldn't bear to stay any further. We had nothing else. I had a very lean income compared to our needs. My son was ready to go to university. I had no other means to support us apart from depending on my income, and we had a lot to deal with. And then we had this house situation that we just explained. House crumbling. It's not your fault, and people taking advantage, especially landlords putting the responsibility that they're supposed to carry on themselves, on the tenants, and pretty much stealing from them to be able to make ends meet for them, not taking up their responsibility, like making the houses habitable, and in quotes taking advantage of the corrupt system to do this. And that was our situation at the time. And I was there fighting with everything I've got to stay stable, to stay balanced, to try and explain, you don't do this to me. I'm just a struggling mother here. I have little or nothing to fall back on. But that wasn't going anywhere. Can you explain what that was?
Yeah. Well, it was basically us finding a place after we had moved out of our old place, and then there was this house in the neighborhood that the neighborhood itself was okay, but the house is, I mean, like, it was secured, had gates and everything.
Had children, had families. That was a very important thing for Jed and I, because it's a two individual family, mother and son, and he didn't have much, so I needed him to associate with friends in the neighborhood. So it was so key that we found a place where that could happen.
Yeah.
And we could keep our pets. Like we love dogs, so we had 2 dogs. We got 2 dogs eventually, and we wanted a nice neighborhood to live.
Yeah, but then the house was a complete wreck. Like, it looked as if the house hadn't been lived in for years, and it was really starting to show. Like, the driveway was messed up. The house itself was completely uninhabitable, and this dude really had the nerve to rent the place out at full price as if it wasn't damaged at all. And was he going to repair the place? No. That money had to come out of our pockets. So we basically had to make a deal with him, like, okay, if we're spending so amount, then that's also going to count towards our rent.
Exactly.
And he agreed to that, as far as I know.
Exactly.
But then later on, he decides to go back on that deal and pretty much decides to take us to courts to try and get the money from us that we had spent fixing up his house that he was supposed to have done himself.
He was supposed to have done himself, claiming that he didn't have the money. We accepted because of this core reasons why we needed to live in that environment. And we accepted to do this. I worked in a school then who supported to provide me a place. At the time, we were building another campus, and I was managing that. I was like the school general manager at the time. So they provided the materials and the labor, and we just applied the costs and everything and subtracted it from the rent. And then the landlord decides he wasn't going to do that. He was going to take advantage of me and the corrupt system to actually attack me and try to squeeze out that money from me. And I tried to explain, I'm the wrong person to do this to. I am not in the position to pay, to give you all of that. I don't have it. I have my son to take care of. I have my life to live, and you have to keep to your side of the bargain. You got to do the responsible thing. And like we explained, you don't expect to live in a responsible government, a responsible environment when you are not willing to be responsible yourself. And I think that's the main situation going on in Nigeria. Correct? So that core challenge we had, I was dealing with all of this, and my son was ready to go to school. We had little or no resources, no support whatsoever. Not even from the environment. I tried to even speak with the neighbors to get their support. One lady just told me she was going to try and talk to the landlord. She was surprised that he would do that, and that was it. None of them were willing to step up and say, oh, we will come to court with you, we would support you. And mind you, if you live in an environment like this in Nigeria, and you see someone doing a hurtful thing, damaging, killing, extorting or abusing your neighbor, and you do nothing about it, you are creating that environment. At the end of the day, it's going to turn around and hurt you, just like it's happened eventually. You're seeing people are corrupt. I'm sure, Jedediah, I'm sure that when all this corruption was going on to try and rig the election, people saw it, but they did nothing about it. And that's exactly what happened to me. You close your eyes, you allow these things to happen, it gets to such a bad degree that you can go back. Now they say you're in court, trying to resolve this, something that could have been resolved, could have been stopped if people were just responsible and did the right things, right?
Exactly.
And that's the situation I found myself. Nobody helped. Nobody. I was all alone. I had to cry out to God to help me. And I tried to talk to these people's heart, appeal to their consciences. Even the lawyers, like, why are you people doing this? I'm like, why are you people doing this? How are we supposed to solve our common problems, live in a safe environment, like have less of the issues we have if nobody is doing the right thing, like stepping up to ensuring that people are doing the right thing, like collectively joining hands to ensure we are living in a responsible environment, like people are responsive to the needs and living nobly, living with integrity. So it was amazing because these were people I also considered were godly people. I thought they were until this happened. I couldn't believe it. I was left on my own, and my son had to go to school, so I had to fight for myself and my son, you know, almost entirely all by myself. Okay, so and then my son had another situation in school. You want to talk about that? Like the situation you had in school? I mean, in school, yes, while writing your WAEC, and then eventually when you had to have that issue with the neighbors as well, and how that became just so difficult to manage that I just felt like, you know what, this is it.
Yeah. So with school, it was like a small class of us, like, and so there were like, what, 5-6 students in my senior year of high school.
Okay.
Because it was like my final year of high school, and we were about to take our final exams and being able to graduate. But the thing in Nigeria is that cheating in these kinds of exams are very common, because it's not just the school doing the exam for you. It's also like there's basically like a board exam you have to do, which is the West African Examination Council exam that determines, okay, these guys are fit enough to move on to university level classes.
Mm-hmm.
So even though they're supposed to not cheat during these exams, cheating is always very common. So initially when my mom started working for the school, they were like, oh yeah, we don't do cheating here, we do our exams fairly and all that. That turned out to be a complete lie. And sorry, there are noises. And now me personally, I wanted to pass the exam, but I wanted to like actually earn that. So when the exams came along, I had to pretty much make sure I did everything I could to not cheat. It was even to a point where they would literally come into the examination hall where we were to like announce the answers to us, because the teachers were not subtle about it at all. I would literally have to like plug my ears to just not hear the answers while also trying to finish the exam. So that was basically it, and I was pretty much the only one who was doing it. Like, I had even seen a case where there were people who would legit just wait until the answers came because they couldn't answer any of the questions at all. And I'm just sitting here like, what were you doing all this time? So yeah, it was a thing. And while some of the teachers respected it, others kind of like felt insulted or some way about it. And it was even to the point where like, and this isn't just this, some of the teachers feeling some way about it, even like my other classmates. It was to the point where like graduation date came along, and even though my mom was like the general manager for the school, no one told her when the graduation was, no one told me when it was, and it pretty much just went by without us even noticing. So that pretty much just tells you everything you need to know.
Yes, and if you hold this for me, and like Jet pointed out, at the point where things were really turning really bad, and so many things internally that I later realized I knew I had to find an alternative. Like it's not that easy to find a job in Nigeria, and it's not that easy to do anything nobly in Nigeria. So I had to trust God for a replacement job. And when that came by, it came for me as a civil service job. So I had just gotten a civil service job at the time, and I had transitioned into that. So I had left the school, and they never told me, even though I was the general manager, like Jed explained, that this was when the graduation was going to hold and all of that. And my son made it so clear that he didn't like the fact that they helped students to cheat. And we had to always, every day, pray to God, like, God, we are standing, we're believing in you, that Jed is going to pass these exams by everything he has studied and by your divine interventions. So we had also worked with the syllabus, had a schedule for reading, and I made sure I was on top of that, waking Jed up, ensuring that he finished the syllabus before the exams, and we trusted God for the outcomes. And that was what happened. So it was hard, but eventually when I even joined the civil service, I felt like, okay, now I get a better experience, I get better pay. I noticed that I was just moving from one type of problem to a different kind of problem. So I'm just trying to say here that the problems, the challenges in Nigeria are very, very systematic. And it was such a huge challenge for anyone who just wants to live nobly, be respected for it. You don't get it. You're actually ill-treated because of it. You're actually abused. You're actually tormented because of it. Like Jed explained, we were not invited. We were not liked for doing the things that were supposed to help a society become better, thrive better, and all of that. So we want to speak about the solutions now. Like, what do you think? What do you advise as solutions to these problems? Because now you're in Canada, and you see that we are able to work, we are able to earn by what you truly deserve, not what you don't deserve. It doesn't work in other parts of the world like it works in Nigeria. So what's the solution now that you would advise?
Well, the only solution I can really think of is, there's somewhere in the Bible that it says that raise up a child in the way they should go, and when they grow up they won't depart from it. Like, I didn't cheat because I was raised to live with integrity. And in Nigeria, I've noticed that a lot of people aren't. So I'm not just gonna say some words like, oh yeah, Nigeria needs to change, and then just expect everyone to follow suit, because if they're raised up that way, it's not gonna happen. Well, really, if Nigeria really wants to change, then that cycle needs to break. Like, if they really raise up people to actually live with integrity, then what you're gonna end up with years from now is a country with like upstanding people. I mean, the old generation can't really do anything if they're not there anymore, right? So,
but in a situation where it's that same old generation that has to do this, do you see any help in sight, any hope in sight? Like, if this generation are still those generation who believe in cheating, who believe in corrupt practices, especially where they can be caught, where it can be covered up, pushed under the carpet, where nobody's gonna notice them or see them. What hope do you see? What solution do you see to this?
Honestly, none, which is why I left in the first place.
So, I mean, that's tough, because this is just showing how things could go when people are unwilling to accept the behavioral changes that are necessary to actually achieve the results that they want. You can see from Peter Obi, the youth out there are crying for a better government. They know that integrity is the way forward, right? But they were unable to grab it, to hold it in their hands. And they pushed things, they allowed things to happen like it did, like I already explained in my own situation. These things are happening, you're closing your eyes, you are allowing it happen. At the end of the day, you're crying cats and dogs, and it's the situation that you created, because if people were different, it would never have happened, right? So we need real solutions. Like I am now and my son, we are people of the African race, right? And we're here in Canada. We're trying to make a life out of everything, right? And what is the situation here in Canada, for example? How would you explain it? Why would you prefer to stay here?
I mean, at least it's a place where you can actually live life if you live your life honestly. Like with being respectful and being upstanding. That's why a lot of people, even here in Canada, have appreciated me, whether it's in the places I work or it's just like friends in general. Whereas cheating is a norm in Nigeria, so it's like a complete opposite.
So while you were hated in Nigeria for that, you were loved here in Canada for the same reason, right?
Exactly.
That is so serious. So this is the message I actually have, because honestly, when I came here, I was seriously devastated. I had hit my lowest point emotionally. I was missing my son. I was struggling. The society was almost going to kill me. Was killing me. I was almost dead because of the experiences. Because I had made up my mind. For me, it was living a noble life, and that was it. And standing up for myself, whether there was anyone supporting me or not, no matter what was coming up against me. And the only thing that happened for me that kept me alive to today was me coming over to visit my son here in Canada and having a chance to now heal and see my son again, and just all of that put together and being able to help my son move on, transition to becoming the independent adult that he needs to be, was just the medicine I needed. And even though I didn't necessarily plan it or see that as the solution for me, but that became the solution for me. And I'm like grateful to God now that I'm able to now sit here a healed person. I don't know, my advice to Nigerians is please embrace that noble life, and it starts with you. You know that it is good to have integrity out of your leaders, then become that yourself and fight for it. I fought for it with everything I had. I didn't mind. I was gonna die fighting for it, and I still stood to the end. I preferred to die fighting for it than to live compromising. So you got to get to that point where that is the decision you have made for things to change, because you cannot change anything you are willing to compromise, to follow. Like if you're still going to fall back to that, how is that ever going to change? It's never going to change. So that's my own best advice for the solution. And if I could do it from the same generation, then you can do it too. And that's what that's my best advice. I see hope if you are willing to do this, because that was a step I took for myself, but it just made the environment unlivable for me. It pushed me out, it coughed me off, and here I am today. I'm so grateful that I'm able to still be alive. I thought I was going to die, honestly. I thought I was going to die, and Nigeria did that to me. But I'm grateful to God, because I've come to realize that you don't blame anyone for the situations in your life. You still have a chance to make a difference with your life, so it's your choice to make. So I made a choice to live. I made a choice to survive this, and it created this whole experience for me that I am in right now. This was the solution for me to survive, to keep on going. So it wasn't just Nigeria anymore. So, and while I don't subscribe to immigration, because I see still a lot of people immigrating and doing it in very unnoble ways, I really don't subscribe to that either. I subscribe to noble ways of living, and that's the wholesome path, and that is the sustainable path. So I encourage you to do that, and I say, if that's the reason why you follow me, please do, and there will be more content like this. And thank you so much, Jed, for sharing your experiences, and I needed this chance to actually speak too, because before now, and I tell you, with all the wounds that I thank God for healing me of. I couldn't do this. I really couldn't. I wasn't in this place where I could speak like this. But I'm grateful now I can actually speak about this. And I'm also grateful for so many things I learned out of my Nigerian culture, like the respect for elders
And how to cook.
and how to cook and how to manage from very little, from whatever you have, even save out of that. That has also helped me survive here, because we have had to survive from very little. And yeah, and I'm so grateful for the father who raised me. He raised me and nurtured integrity in me, and the mother too, who nurtured the fear of God in me. So I'm so grateful for those. I'm also grateful for my experiences working, because even though they were difficult, they nurtured that strength in me to press on amidst a very challenging experience, challenging situation. So that has really helped me even now, and to keep going. So while I'm grateful for all that, I'm also not going to push under the carpet those things that almost killed me, which is what we've expressed here in this vlog. And I hope that those who really mean well would see it in the positive way and learn from this, and let us make our world a better place. We have to live out of love, out of really true love. And when you truly love your neighbor, you will respect them. You will be mindful of your actions, how they are affecting them, and you will stop those things that are not right, that are unkind, that are, you wouldn't cheat them. You wouldn't try to oppress them. You wouldn't try to use corruption to overwhelm them. You wouldn't try to destroy them in a wicked way, by abuse, by taking the wrong advantage of them. So please, let's try and correct ourselves so that we can move on further and make our world a better place, a place that we can actually live in. I want to see everyone, Africa, the whole world, become a global village where we can all safely interact, and safely be and respect each other's cultures, and respect that life can be lived sustainably if we do certain things. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Hi. Oh boy.
It's straighter if we zigzag it than just going around.
No, it's better this way.
Take longer.
But it's fun. We're just having a nice walk, right? That's better. Thank you. That's the spirit.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah. Oh, today was so nice, right? This is the way to go. All right then. Okay, one thing I failed to talk about in the video was that I have first-hand experience of how struggling to live your life nobly in Nigeria, and perhaps tolerating a little double standards one way or the other, compromising in terms of living in error according to the will of God, can make that process very dangerous for you in Nigeria. So my dad, who raised me to live with integrity, died that way. He compromised by having let's say, not very strong values when it comes to women. He womanized, so he didn't really live. He never lived faithful to his wife, and he had so many women in his life, and that was basically where he failed seriously. It affected us as his children. It affected his life. So a lot of problems that affected him and affected the quality of life we lived came from that. It also eventually cost him his marriage. My mom fell ill. She broke down because their marriage failed, and she really loved him so much. So that didn't work out. Eventually, he got this very good job. He was the mayor of the capital of Akwa Ibom State, and he was murdered. And by divine intervention, divine revelation, I saw that coming. So I prayed that God would remove myself and my sister from that scene, because we were most likely going to get raped from the attack that was coming. And I warned him as well, I warned my dad as well, that was going to happen, but he didn't take the necessary precautions. So it happened just the way I had told him it was going to happen. So and this was things that I got through divine understanding, So when it eventually happened, I learned a lot, that Nigeria is a very difficult place to live nobly, and you have to do so from a lot of areas, from every area of your life. And you really have to trust God. You really have to pray, because God heard my prayers in those situations where I asked for God's help, and I live by that. I've always asked for his help, and he has always come true for me. So that's my big advice. So he was murdered because he had a life with integrity, and that's how he even got the job. He was appointed as mayor of Uyo, the capital of Akwa Ibom. And a lot of people from there didn't like it, because it turns out that his mother was the one from Uyo, and his father was not from Uyo, was from Ona, we would later find out. So that he continued to maintain Uyo as his primary place of origin. So he felt he had the right, because in his official documents, even as a military officer, was Uyo. So though the people of the state knew that history, even before we, the children, knew that he wasn't even from Uyo, so they murdered him. It led to a series of events that led to that. So that was really bad. They kept charms at his gate. They protested, they petitioned the government, that they felt insulted that they had made my father the mayor when they had honorable men, but for the first time, they would have a mayor who would pay salaries on time. They would have a mayor who would come to work even before the resumption time. My father would always be at work before 8 a.m. in the morning. And that's when the people of the state knew that there were always salaries available to be paid. Before then, the previous mayors would always claim the salaries were not there and paid late, but my father would always pay the salaries on time. So he was appreciated by the people, and definitely if he was going to become governor, he would have had the support of the people straight up. So he died before he even got that chance. He was murdered. So I learned that Nigeria is a difficult place to live a noble life. You're going to be attacked, you're going to be killed if they can eliminate you. So you really need the fear of God, the partnership, the support of God to survive. Like, you need to really be in union with God to overcome and to be in the right place at the right time, and to be safe from all of this evil or these dangerous experiences or dangerous possibilities. So that's it. Yep, that's what happened to him. If you are going to try to live nobly, try to ensure that you're not having double standards in other aspects of your life. Try to eliminate the compromises in your life. So in the Sweet Cross, I have hashtags like exit all compromise now, and and read the Bible, because that's where you get the information that helped me and I believe would help you. It's not just limited to me. It's the truth, and anyone who lives by it will be set free, will be free. If you know the truth, it will make you free. So, and you trust the process. And that's it for me. I trusted the process, and I knew that it just had to work. I knew that I was dealing with a God who has integrity, who is holy, who is truth itself. He has described himself as truth itself, and who is love too. So I didn't expect anything short of his words coming true. So I would say in prayer, it's like, it just has to be, because if it's not, then God is not holy, God isn't true. So I don't know what happens in other situations in other people's lives, but I'm talking about my own experience, and I stick to it. And no matter the circumstances, I continue to speak to that circumstances until it's gone. So it can take time. In some circumstances, you might still be seeing the symptoms of those things. It might be persisting, but as long as you don't give up, you continue to hold on to the truth, the faith, it will leave. It will be destroyed. The light will overcome the darkness. The truth will overcome whatever it is that is going on. So that's been my own experience. And you don't walk in compromise. You believe and you obey the instructions of God. So I have depended on that, and that is the information, the secret I'm passing to you, to be able to depend on that, and it will help you in your life to overcome the challenges. So I thought I should add that to wrap up this vlog, and I hope that you actually implement this in your life so that you see the changes that you've been expecting. And no matter how bad that situation is, even if you think you're going to die the next minute, you believe in this and hold on to and continue to speak it by faith. And that's all you need. It's a faith that walks through spoken word and through your belief, like looking out for that truth to come to pass. Like, now walk in that faith, walk in that truth you're believing for. So maybe you are down, get up and force yourself up. If you're sad, cheer up, like consciously cheer up even when you're not necessarily there yet. So it is the substance of what you are hoping for. You're living in that in already, and that's what has worked for me. So I had to cheer up when I was down, when I was depressed. I had to walk in that joy, even though I had to push my face to smile. Like, it was hard, but it was possible. So it was just me now consciously putting that faith to work. And that's all you need to do. Put your faith to work. And that's why his yoke is easy and his burden is light. And that was the only burden, and that was the only yoke, believing and putting that faith to work. Like, now looking for that which I am believing for, stepping out in faith, putting your feet on the ground and walking, smiling when you're supposed to be crying or to be sad, and being confident when you're supposed to be afraid, and things like that. And applying the word, declaring the truth in the midst of the adversity, in the midst of the contrast. So those are the things that have worked for me. I trusted God in practical ways. It's a practical thing. It's not about saying, oh, you want to see this first. No, you got to trust first. You got to believe first. And that's what worked for me. So I lost my dad in the process, and that taught me a lesson that you don't walk in compromise, and you got to be true. So in other aspects of my life, of my dad's life, he was outstanding. He had very good work ethics. He really tried his best to live a morally upright life. He loved his children. He worked hard to protect them, but he failed in these areas, and that really affected our life. So if you love your children, do so in practical ways. Make the changes in your life that applies, that shows the truth that you truly love them. See, love is not mere words. It's actions. It's like doing things. It's not just emotions. It's not just an emotional event, emotional thing. It's a practical thing. It's in doing that you show you love. So what are the things you do that shows you really love? You really care. You really respect. You're really serious about being noble. That's it. If you're noble, it's in your actions. If you love, it's in your actions. It's not just an emotional display. No. So I learned this and it changed everything for me. That's why the Bible says, if you love me, you will keep my commands. So anyone who says they love God obeys him, keeps his commands. So thank you for watching. The Sweet Cross is my other channel where I talk more in details about these things, and I hope you check it out, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.